Good morning. Today our topic is going to be about narcissism, evil, and original sin. How does that strike you, lovely lady?
Well, it sounds like quite a lot to talk about, but it'll be a lot for our viewers to learn and absorb.
Well, thank you.
And I'm looking forward to being with you on this.
Yes, I'd like to keep it a surprise for both of us. So, what the topic is nowadays everybody is using the term narcissism so freely that it's become kind of meaningless. So we describe Trump as a narcissist. We describe some villain as a narcissist. But I don't think we would have used, let's just say, that term for Stalin or for Hitler. We would have freely used the word evil. But today, no, we don't use evil. I mean, Trump occasionally does. But, or more than occasionally, we say narcissists. And somehow in the process, we just somehow homogenize this behavior. We make it sort of okay. He's a little bit more narcissistic than other people, is what the implication is.
Do you think people are afraid to use the word evil? Do you think to call him evil rather than narcissistic is something that they don't want to do?
I think so. I think for educated people, the concept of evil, we even use the word psychopath freely, right?
Oh,
And yet really, what is psychopath is in a sense a euphemism for evil. But somehow, the moment we would say evil, we would think of this as kind of magical thinking, is the way a psychiatrist would, describe someone who used the term evil. Is that it's a belief in other worlds, it's a belief in devils, demons, and all these things that we have, through education learned to not believe in. However, just because we might believe them not to exist doesn't in fact mean that we're any the wiser. So it's almost like in the dark. You block out the dark with the light. And the idea is to have enough light so that you can see in the dark, but not so much light that you cannot see the dark, that the dark has been essentially extinguished altogether. And I think that's what's happened to us, is that we've left ourselves incredibly vulnerable to evil because we don't believe that it exists.
do you think that we do not see the dark? Do you think most of us don't see the dark?
Well, I think to some extent we're conditioned in what we see. We know that literally what we see, as it goes through the cerebral cortex, we don't actually see what is in front of us. We see an interpretation, our own interpretation. So our beliefs will absolutely have an influence on what we see. So if we believe that there is no such thing as evil, if we believe that it's all choices and we're all basically the same, and as a result of genetics and conditioning, we come up with sort of a different rubric or personality a lens through which we then engage with the world. Well, then it's all relative, isn't it? Some people are a little bit nicer than others more evil, but even that's debatable because it's depending on from whose perspective. But I think that it's really, and to answer your question, it is extremely threatening, because if we do accept that there is such a thing as evil, we are challenging the basic paradigm within which we live, which is that materialistic, scientific, quasi-atheistic paradigm. And when I say quasi-atheistic, I mean that it's not total atheism, in the sense that very few of us, maybe none of us, are absolutely sure that there is nothing beyond this world, but we live as if there wasn't.
So what do you mean? What do you mean by that? We live as if there wasn't. So
Well,
it's the way we conduct our lives.
Yeah, we conduct our life. We basically assume that, let's just say, when we say a lie and we're not caught, when we do something and we're not caught, when we don't pay our taxes, are not caught, we got away with it. And that, then we justify it to ourselves that it's not just us, it's other people, etc., but that we got away. And it's a very uncomfortable notion to believe that at the end of it all, we actually got away with nothing. Not even our private thoughts that were poisonous. kind of delight in dreaming of revenge against our enemies, even that we would then be responsible for, if indeed there's another world. So with at once we believe in evil, we now have to believe in the opposite too. We ultimately have to engage with our own evil, not just the evil outside, but the evil within. And I think that is the huge challenge. And so that's what leaves us very open to the Trumps of this world. Because really, what is Trump doing other than simply telling his constituency, that crowd of individuals, who are the, generally speaking, the, white Americans, several generations American, maybe, going as far as, 5-6 generations back, let's say. Telling that person what they want to hear, period. That's
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
And nothing more, nothing more sophisticated than that.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it's as much as there's evil in him, to the extent that they wish to believe what he's telling them, that's the evil in them.
Evil in them.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
of course, they, like any of us, don't want to see. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why the moment that they have to see Trump as evil, they now have to look at themselves as at least foolish, or complete fools, in fact, for having followed it, and worse, somehow complicit in that evil.
I was just going to ask you if you answered my question, how many people really see him as evil or see themselves? But they don't really see him as evil.
No, even the right or the left. On the left, they're really starting to actually talk about it. And they started, skirt around the topic, and they're starting to get closer to it. I mean, for instance, when Kelly, his chief of staff General Kelly, was describing him as the most flawed individual, right? Now, that's so tame compared to what he is. Flawed?
Well, he was just being diplomatic and not using a...
But I think this is also in, educated people in today's world, those who deem themselves to be, of a certain level, are disinclined to use such a word, because immediately, if you did so, let's say in the country club setting, you would make yourself a pariah.
Yeah.
They would see you as being, basically some Bible-thumping fundamentalist.
Yeah.
And so I think, without, belaboring the point, this is really what I wanted to get across now. And I think with the next episode, what we might engage with is a discussion of what is meant by original sin. Because in the Bible, they talk about the original sin, and, it seems rather difficult to accept the notion that we all came into this world with sin. I mean, when in fact, a little baby, what has it done, right? But when we understand what the Bible actually means by original sin, and perhaps even sin would not be the right word. There might be a better word. Well, far be it from me to choose another word, but in terms of our understanding of sin, it might be interesting to recharacterize that another way. But that'll be for our next discussion.
Our next discussion, I thought you were going to say that.
Okay, and with that, well, thank you very much for being with me, lovely
lady.
Thank you,
John.
And thank you for joining us in our little private chat here. Please follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn as well, and as well on my website. You can find me at johnberlinghardy.com. Again, thanks again for joining, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Bye.